Hello everyone, my name is Caitlin Murphy, and today I'll be presenting on blood vessels and their role within the circulatory system. In this presentation, I will discuss the structure and function of blood vessels, compare arteries, veins, and capillaries, explain pulmonary and systemic circulation, and discuss several vascular diseases. I will also connect these topics to the learning objectives and vocabulary terms listed for this unit. This slide outlines the major learning objectives and vocabulary terms covered throughout the presentation. The presentation focuses on comparing the three tunics that make up blood vessel walls, distinguishing between elastic arteries, muscular arteries, and arterioles, comparing arteries and veins, and describing capillary beds and capillary types. Before we go into detail, let's review the overall purpose of blood vessels within the circulatory system. The overall purpose of blood vessels is transportation throughout the body. Blood vessels form a continuous pathway that allows blood to circulate between the heart, lungs, and body tissues. This circulation delivers oxygen and nutrients to cells so they can carry out metabolism and maintain homeostasis. Blood vessels also transport hormones that regulate body functions and carry immune cells that help defend against infection. At the same time, they remove waste products such as carbon dioxide and metabolic byproducts, so these substances can be eliminated by organs like the lungs and kidneys. The movement of blood throughout tissues is called perfusion. Adequate perfusion is essential because cells depend on a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients to survive. Most blood vessels contain three structural layers called tunics. The relative thickness of these layers changes depending on the type of vessel and its function within the body. The innermost layer is the tunica intima. This layer contains the endothelium, which is a thin layer of epithelial cells lining the lumen or interior space of the vessel. The tunica intima creates a smooth surface that reduces friction during blood flow. The middle layer of a blood vessel is the tunica media. This is a muscular layer containing smooth muscle and elastic connective tissue. It is responsible for changing vessel diameter through vasoconstriction and vasodilation. Larger arteries may also contain internal and external elastic membranes that provide additional elasticity. The outermost layer is the tunica externa, also called the tunica adventitia. This layer is composed mainly of collagen and elastic fibers that provide structural support and protection. Some large vessels may also contain supporting structures, such as the vasovessorum and the nervi vessorum. The vasovessorum are small blood vessels that supply nutrients to the walls of larger vessels, while the nervi vessorum are nerves that help regulate vessel contraction. Together, these layers allow blood vessels to transport blood efficiently while maintaining strength and flexibility. Now we can discuss specific types of blood vessels, starting with veins and venules. Veins and venules return blood back to the heart. In most cases, they transport deoxygenated blood away from tissues, although pulmonary veins are an exception since they carry oxygenated blood from the lungs into the heart. Veins also act as blood reservoirs and contain most of the body's blood volume at any given time. Structurally, veins contain the same three tunics as arteries, but their walls are thinner because venous blood pressure is much lower. Veins also have a larger lumen than arteries, which allows them to hold more blood. Large veins in the extremities contain valves, which are folds in the tunica intima. These valves prevent backflow and ensure blood moves toward the heart instead of away. Venous valves are especially important in the legs since blood must move against gravity. Venules are the smallest veins in the body and collect blood from capillary beds before draining into larger veins. There are several factors that influence venous blood flow. The skeletal muscle pump helps compress veins during muscle contraction, pushing blood upward, while gravity can slow venous return, especially when standing for long periods of time. Arteries and arterioles are another type of blood vessel. They transport blood away from the heart. It is easy to think of A for away, so arteries move blood away from the heart. In systemic circulation, this blood is usually oxygenated, but in pulmonary circulation, within the pulmonary arteries, the blood is deoxygenated. Arteries have thick walls and a relatively small lumen compared to veins because they must withstand high blood pressure generated by the heart. There are two major types of arteries, elastic and muscular. Elastic arteries, such as the aorta and pulmonary arteries, are located closest to the heart. They contain abundant elastic tissue within the tunica media, allowing for them to stretch and recoil as blood leaves the heart, to help maintain consistent blood pressure. Muscular arteries contain more smooth muscle and fewer elastic fibers. These arteries are responsible for the distribution of blood to specific organs and body regions. Examples of muscular arteries are brachial and femoral arteries. Arterioles are the smallest branches of arteries. They contain mostly smooth muscle and very little elastic connective tissue. Arterioles are especially important since they regulate resistance and control blood flow into capillary beds. Because of this role, arterioles are considered major resistance vessels in the circulatory system. Lastly, we have the bridge between arterioles and venules. Capillaries. Capillaries are the smallest blood vessels within the body and serve as the primary site of exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste products between blood and body tissues. This exchange process is called microcirculation. Capillaries are composed of only a single layer of endothelial cells and a basement membrane, making their walls extremely thin for diffusion. There are three major types of capillaries. Continuous capillaries have tightly connected endothelial cells with almost no gaps. These are common in muscle tissue and the brain, where exchange is important, but you have to be selective. Fenestrated capillaries contain small pores called fenestrations that allow for increased movement of substances. These are common in organs involved in absorption and filtration, such as the kidneys and intestines. Discontinuous or sinusoidal capillaries contain large gaps and incomplete basement membranes that allow large molecules and cells to pass through. These are found in the liver, spleen, and bone marrow. Capillary beds are the connection point of arterioles to venules. The blood flow is arterial to meta-arterial through the capillaries and then to venules, which then go back to veins and the heart. Blood enters the capillary bed through a meta-arteriole, where rings of smooth muscle called precapillary sphincters regulate blood flow into individual capillaries. If sphincters close, blood can bypass the capillaries through a thoroughfare channel, creating a vascular shunt directly from the arteriole to the venule. This system allows the body to regulate blood flow based on tissue needs. Another important part of blood vessels is which type of circulation they are involved with. First off, pulmonary circulation moves blood between the heart and lungs for gas exchange. Deoxygenated blood leaves the right ventricle through the pulmonary arteries and travels to the lungs, where in the pulmonary capillaries, carbon dioxide diffuses out of the blood while oxygen diffuses into the blood. The oxygenated blood then returns to the heart through the pulmonary veins and enters the left atrium. Pulmonary circulation is unique because the pulmonary arteries carry deoxygenated blood while the pulmonary veins carry oxygenated blood, which is the opposite of systemic circulation. Systemic circulation supplies oxygenated blood to all body tissues. Blood leaves the left ventricle through the aorta and travels through arteries, arterioles, and capillaries to reach tissues throughout the body. Within capillary beds, oxygen and nutrients diffuse into tissues while carbon dioxide and wastes enter the blood. The deoxygenated blood then returns to the heart through veins and eventually enters the superior and inferior vena cava before reaching the right atrium. Systemic circulation is responsible for maintaining tissue perfusion and supporting the metabolic needs of every organ system. There are several diseases that can affect blood vessels and interfere with normal circulation. This slide will discuss a few. Atherosclerosis occurs when fatty deposits, cholesterol, and calcium accumulate within artery walls. These form plaques that narrow the lumen and reduce blood flow. This can increase the risk of heart attack and stroke. Deep vein thrombosis, or DVT, occurs when a blood clot forms within a deep vein, usually in the legs. The clot may obstruct blood flow and can become dangerous if it breaks loose and travels to the lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism. Lastly, an aneurysm is an abnormal ballooning or weakening of the blood vessel wall, commonly occurring in the aorta. If an aneurysm ruptures, it can cause severe internal bleeding and may become life-threatening. These diseases demonstrate the importance of maintaining healthy blood vessels and proper circulation. These are the references I use throughout the presentation. Feel free to educate yourself further by going to these references. They provide information regarding blood vessel anatomy, circulation, and vascular disease.